All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is my good friend, artist and author Anne Elizabeth Moore, and is the former editor of both Best American Comics and Punk Planet. She is the founder of the Lady Jars. She is the author of several books. Her latest is Threadbare, Clothes, Sex, and Trafficking, all of which you can find at AnneElizabethMoore.com. Anne, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Thank you, Matthew. It's always a pleasure.
All right, so Anne, let's get right to it. Let's talk about the new book, Threadbare. I was telling you right before we went on the air here, it's just gorgeous. It is just the book itself is just eye candy. It is such an awesome book. It collects some of the Lady Jars strips that have been in Truth Out. It has some new strips, some new writing, and overall, it deals with the concept of fast fashion. So if people haven't heard of that before, what exactly is fast fashion?
Well, it's an idea, excuse me, sort of founded along the idea of fast food, where there would be sort of constantly readily accessible clothing items for almost anyone who wanted them for any occasion, right? The problem with fast food is that you consume it and then it's gone. And so with fast fashion, the problem became, how do you make these clothes consumable? How do you make them so disposable that you really can only wear them once or twice before you need to return and buy the same outfit over again? And that, in fact, is sort of the problem that Threadbare addresses.
So before we get into some of the individual strips, how big is the fast fashion industry? Give us some sort of statistics of just sort of kind of like, I know just so we can kind of wrap our brains around, like how large is it? How big of a problem is this?
Well, it's a constantly growing problem, which I think is the thing to keep in mind. It's really something that started in this century, or rather since 2000. And the problem isn't exclusively about fast fashion. If you look at the idea that fast fashion is supported by the remainder of the garment industry, which in this day and age it is, then between 1/6 and 1/7 of the world's population of women actually work for it. And so this is a problem that does not fail to affect every single person on the planet.
Well, let's dig into some of the great strips, because again, this is an example of one of my favorite types of journalism, which is comics journalism, which takes, really complex and deep topics and presents it in like this amazing drawing and amazing artwork. It really is just like, I'm just reading it. It's like, it's heartbreaking because the stories are heartbreaking, but it's just, you're just drawn into just the amazing artwork that you have on this. I want to talk about one of the early ones because I don't remember seeing this one. Maybe I missed it. It's actually one called Model Employee, and it actually talks about the horrors of the modeling industry, and it's awful. Tell us about it.
Well, I was a model for about 3 days in the 1980s. So what I know about it,
you made your billions and got out. You were like, that's it, got it, and you're gone.
Screw it. I'm 12. I can leave this junk stand. No, I didn't. I wasn't terribly successful, but somehow later in life, I was able to hook up with a former supermodel, because when you work in journalism, you develop a lot of weird networks. And so I met this woman, Sarah Meyer, who is a Filipino woman, and she's really one of the most amazing and thoughtful and well-spoken people I've ever met, but she also happens to be a former supermodel and was really, really open to telling me about the wages, the hours, the stress, the sort of privatization problems that happen in the modeling industry, the unbelievably bizarre housing situation that modeling agencies often establish. And then, of course, there's the on-the-job sexual harassment and sometimes sexual violence that happens that we know a little bit more about from places like American Apparel. And on top of this, there's the problem that we're talking about the fashion industry. We're talking about an industry that, on the whole, subjugates women economically. And so we imagine, when we think about models like, oh, well, at least they're beautiful and rich because they get paid a lot. Well, no, in the final analysis, they're often not paid at all. They're paid sometimes in trade, like in clothes. And of course, like, when can you wear an all glitter brassiere around, or even trade it in for lunch? You really can't, and so you end up with sort of a problem achieving the living wage that really, in many ways, resembles what garment workers in factories in Southeast Asia end up getting, where you really aren't earning even half of what it takes to survive in the economy in which you live.